Greetings, my loyal subjects. I am Lord Tekkington, son of Timothy, first of his names from the lands of Pennsylvania. Actually, that sounded relatively cool. Hey everybody, Tekking here, and today's Bleach discussion is going to be about something that I feel only the most seasoned of Bleach fans will be able to appreciate in its entirety. I'm talking about people that have been watching and reading the series since the very beginning, because this topic is about the four, possibly five, noble houses in the Soul Society. Yeah, if you don't know what that is, allow me to fill you in a little bit. There's really not going to be a lot of information I have to drop to get you caught up. Alright, so the first thing I should bring up is before they were even properly mentioned as the four great noble houses, it was very obvious that something like this was going to happen in Bleach. Just in the introduction of the Soul Society and the Seirei itself, it is very heavily based on feudal era Japan, which of course had the processes of nobility and the caste system, so the idea that there was going to be some hierarchy in this society shouldn't have come as a shock to anyone. Also, the Kuchiki family, which is probably the most famous of the noble houses, was regarded as noble and more famous and kind of the higher echelon even amongst the other captains, so it was really easy to see that Kubo was probably going to do something like this at some point. But try-hard Bleach fans will remember the first time they were officially name-dropped and most exposition was elaborated upon was during the fight between Yoruichi Shihouin and Soifone during the end of the Soul Society arc. That was a pretty epic fight if I remember it correctly. Ninja girls beating the shit out of each other, Yoruichi taking off her clothes, lightning shooting out. Those were the days. But anyway, yeah, during that fight, Soifone brought up the fact that there were four noble houses in the Soul Society, or possibly five, because one of them was dropped from the nobility, and that would have been the Shiba clan. Soifone brought it up in this fight particularly because she was fighting against Yoruichi, not only a member, but one of the previous heads of the Shihouin clan, which is one of the noble families. She was the 22nd head of it before she was exiled, or I don't know if she was really officially exiled. She just kind of left of her own accord when Uehara and Tessai were banished. I don't know if there was ever an official hearing saying, you know, Yoruichi is hereby excommunicated, but she left the Soul Society so the duties fell on her successor, which would have been her brother Yushiro Shihouin, but we'll get to that in a second. Along with that, she also mentioned the Shiba clan, which was also a member of the royal family. However, they were dropped from the nobility altogether. That's where I bring up it's a little bit confusing if there were five noble families to begin with, and then with the Shiba being dropped, you now had four, or if there were four noble houses to begin with, and now with the Shiba being dropped, there was only three. If you go on Bleach Wikia, which I know a lot of people are going to immediately go to, they just state that there was originally five and now four, but from where I see in the series, maybe it's just an issue with mistranslations and the such, I haven't seen any concrete evidence to say there are definitely five, and then after the Shiba family dropped, there were now officially four. Kubo only really brought it up this one point, and there really wasn't more to elaborate on after that. Now, whether or not you consider this factor, if there were five or noble families before the Shiba family got dropped, we still have the fact that there are either one or two clans that we do not know anything about in the slightest. But for right now, the ones that we know that are nobility are Shihouin and Kuchiki, and formerly Shiba. So in this video, I'm pretty much just going to go through these three specific clans, talk about them a little bit, and then you can maybe hypothesize if Kubo's ever going to bring them up again. I'm going to say no on that one. I mean, obviously the Shihouin family is going to be showing up, and the Kuchiki, of course, but if Kubo's ever going to bring up, oh, here are all the noble families now together, and they're going to do something relevant, yeah, I think that might be a far cry from what's going to actually happen in this series, considering it's nearing its end. Alright, well, let's start off with the Kuchiki family, because that's the one that first made its introduction. Byakuya was the first of the captains of the Gotei 13 to originally arrive. I mean, I guess you can make an argument that Yoruichi technically appeared in the series first, but it was as a black cat and nobody knew her relevance yet, so I'm just going to use Byakuya as first. They are regarded as probably the most famous out of all of the clans, and their members are as such. We have Byakuya Kuchiki, who is the current head of the clan, his former wife Hisana Kuchiki, his sister through marriage, Rukia Kuchiki. We have Byakuya's father, Sojun Kuchiki, currently deceased, and his grandfather, Ginrei Kuchiki, also deceased. And to those loyal fans out there that have watched the anime-only Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, are aware Koga Kuchiki is also in this mix at some point around Ginrei's time, maybe a little bit before that. But once again, that's non-canon, so he doesn't count. Although I will say he had a damn awesome look. Okay, maybe he's in. No, he's out. Sorry, the clothing doesn't give him canon status. I'm sorry. If it was that easy, Ashido would have been on the block, no problem. So it was hinted at in this final arc, not expressly, but hinted, that the noble families have some sort of task that they're given by the Soul King, some important task which elevated them to nobility, and they have to perform to aid the Soul Society. For the Kuchikis, this is unknown. However, in the Bound arc, it was mentioned that the Kuchikis are responsible for maintaining the Soul Society's history. They are basically the bookkeepers going around. Other than that non-canon piece of information we received in, I think it was episode 88, we have no idea what the Kuchiki family do. They're just kind of like rich and noble, and they wear really important scarves and kenseikan on their hair, and they walk around and they look really cool, and that's about it. Oh, they have a pool at one point before Byakuya found out and destroyed it. Dick. I don't know. Doesn't it get hot in the Soul Society, Byakuya? What do you have against pools? But yeah, other than that, as a noble clan, not really much to talk about, because there's not much we really know about how their nobility operates. I mean, there's the whole system where, you know, he marries Hisana, and then, of course, it gets passed down through the generations, like, of course, Ginrei was the head, and then Sojun, and then Byakuya after that, but that's just common things that happen with all nobility. In terms of actually discussing what the Kuchikis are responsible for outside that piece of non-canon information, I got nothing. Next is the Shihouin family, who I can actually talk about because they are given explicit duties. The only two members that are known so far in the series are Yoruichi Shihouin and her little brother Yushiro Shihouin. The Shihouin clan is also known as the House of the Godly Gears. They own all these really important gadgets and items that are basically bequeathed to them directly from the Soul King, from as we know. Some of the items are used to defend the Soul Society, some can be used to augment a Shinigami's own abilities, some can be used as war tools. We haven't really gotten that many of them yet, but we have gotten a little bit more than you might think. So the first of these items to be shown was this little trinket that Yoruichi gave Ichigo, which enabled him to fly. Wait a second, Tekking, aren't Shinigami already able to fly in the confines of the Seirete? I mean, we've seen it happen a few times. You can have that argument for days, man. I still tell you they're not supposed to fly. Anytime it happens, anytime you see a Shinigami flying or standing in the air in the Soul Society, I'm just gonna say that's either dramatic falling, you know, it's a trope where, you know, Kenpachi sliced up a meteor and he stands really cool in the sky for a little bit before he lands, because why else will there be a shit ton of stairs on the fucking Sokyoku Hill if they could fly? Simple question! The next item we see is like a shield sort of deal that was given to Ukitake by the Shihouin family at some point. We know this because it bores the Shihouin family crest. Ukitake and Shunsui both use this item together, sliding in their respective Zanpakutos and channeling their energy directly up and destroying the Sokyoku, which I remind you is a giant phoenix firebird that purportedly has the power of 1,000,000 Zanpakuto, which Ichigo was able to stop with just one, which, now that we know, is only a small portion of his power. Okay, they might have been kind of making the Sokyoku out to be a little bit more epic than it really was, but it was still really powerful, and this shield device managed to destroy it no problem. After this, we see the Tentokin that Ichigo was wearing that allowed him to rescue Rukia. This cloak also seems to do the same thing as the previous trinket. It allows Ichigo to fly. The only difference is the trinket that Yoruichi gave him seemed to take up one of his arms, so you couldn't use both. But with the Tentokin, you can freely move around and fly. Ichigo just kind of took it off, and it just kind of floated in the wind. So whoever random Shinigami found that, I'm sure, oh man, I get to fly now! I don't know. So beyond that, we see some more items Yoruichi uses in the fight against Yuha. Like, she has these, like, spheres that apparently, you know, you get hit by them once, you're, like, marked, and then if you get hit by a second one, you'll get disintegrated. Who knows if that's, like, a specific tool. She also had a bunch of razor wire and these neat little slips of paper that bore the mark of the Shihouin family that she used to reassemble the Soul King, or put a barrier up around him, at least. So, yeah, a lot of interesting tools there. Also, when we were introduced to Yushiro, Yoruichi's younger brother, and the 23rd head of the family, he was holding these huge bag of goodies, which I'm thinking might be shown again. I'm not sure. I think they were used actually to, you know, expedite the journey to the Soul Palace or something like that. Maybe Urahara used them to make the gate. You know, it sucks too, because I was originally seeing that big, you know, bag that Yushiro was holding, and I was thinking, man, that'd be awesome if they all get decked out in some cool Reishi armor and Reishi bazookas and cannons and shit. Hey, the Bounce Arc gave us a Reishi shotgun, so why not? The Quincy's are packing heat. Why not the fucking Shinigami, right? Also, something is that they're closely related to the 2nd Division and in relation the Stealth Corps. I don't know if it's like the head of the clan also becomes the leader of the Stealth Corps, maybe as like a sign of goodwill between the Gotei and the noble families, you know, some kind of like joining the houses sort of thing. The only reason I say that is because after Yoruichi left, Yushiro was not made the next captain. It was Soifone, although perhaps Yushiro was found to be too much of a crybaby, or he was too young at the time, more likely. So the Soifone, the Soifone, yeah, she's the Soifone, like the Batman. Soifone maybe became the head because the Phone family has always been a loyal retainer of the Shihouin family, and they figured, oh, that'll be a good, appropriate place for her until maybe Yushiro comes of age or something like that. Because the same thing with Byakuya, you know, he is the noble family and he's the head of the clan, but he also became the captain of the 6th Division, maybe along the same route that Ginrei and eventually Sojun did. So those are the only 2 noble houses that we know still have the status of noble house, but now we go to one of the former noble families, the Shiba clan. The Shiba clan has the following members. We have the current head of the family, Kukaku Shiba, her younger brother, Ganju Shiba, her deceased brother, who is the former head of the clan, Kaien Shiba, his former wife, Miyaku Shiba, and also Isshin Shiba, who is the leader of a branch family of the house. Yeah, and I have to talk about branch families very briefly. Those of you that know about Naruto and have watched the Chunin exam arc and know all about the Hyugas, you might already have a step up on me here, but basically how it works is you have a main house, which is considered the true noble house. They're the ones that get to live in, you know, abject luxury, and they're the ones like, bring me my wine, peasant, you know, they're the ones that actually get to enjoy the status of being nobles. And then you have the branch family, which are still very important, but their main job is to support the main tree as the branches, if the noble family would be seen as the trunk of the tree. Think of it this way, as I'll just use the Hyugas as an example from Naruto. We had 2 brothers, Hizashi and Hiyashi Hyuga, and the brother that was born first became the next head of the main family, and the brother that was born second became the head of a branch family. Even if it was only by seconds, that's how it worked back in feudal society. Or at least that's how I expect it worked, because I actually haven't done any research into this, and I'm just going off of what I've seen from anime, which I think is pretty accurate on how the Japanese represent their culture. Yeah. So during the final arc, while it was not expressly explained exactly how this system works, it was shown that the Shiba family was given a direct responsibility by the Royal Palace and the Soul King, and that was the ability to kind of travel between both areas. The Kukaku Shiba Flower Crane Cannon's original purpose was that. Kukaku used it during the Soul Society arc to help Ichigo and his friends invade the Seirete, but its original purpose is to reshoot up the Heavenly Pillar. So if the Zero Squad ever wants to travel down to the Seirete, the Shiba clan is given the responsibility and the honor of sending them back up. That's why they are there, and that's what their duty is. In addition to that, Ganju also had one of the maps to the Royal Palace, so you couldn't even get there without the guidance of the Shiba family, so that is essentially their duty, basically to serve, maybe as like retainers of the Royal Guard themselves, or serve as like an emissary to the Royal Guard in the Soul Society, sort of like ambassadors, if you will. Their history, though, is not a very bright one. Kaien Shiba, the former head of the family, was killed by a hollow that was being manipulated by Aizen. Well, actually, the hollow took over his body and controlled his entire being, and then Rukia had to kill him, so that was a pretty shitty day. Also killed Miyoku Shiba, his wife. Along with that, Ganju had to witness Rukia bringing Kaien's body back home, so that fucked up Ganju for a little bit there. Kukaku was made the head of the family after that. I guess this was the point they were perhaps excommunicated as noble families. Maybe there just wasn't enough of them left to, support their duties, maybe that was one of the reasons why they were dropped from grace. And also we have Isshin Shiba, who is now Isshin Kurosaki, Ichigo's father, who is the head of the branch family that just left the Soul Society whenever he needed to help Masaki. I'm sure he didn't drop, here's my pink slip, head captain, here's my 2 weeks notice, I'll be heading to the human world now to marry this college-age girl. I'm sure he just left and they couldn't find him. So, because of Uehara specially made Gigai. So maybe it's perhaps of all these incidents that they were dropped from the noble family. So those are the only 3 families that we know of that either do still have noble status or at one point did have noble status. Like I said, there could be anywhere from 1 to 2 clans that we have no idea which they are, but I shall go down the list of some theories that a lot of people get confused throughout the series. First up is probably the Kasumioji family. Oh, I hear this all the time. People saying that these people were noble families. Alright, well, first off, it was a non-canon anime-only arc. So, even if they did explicitly say that we are a noble family, doesn't count, sorry. And in addition to that, it was never even stated that they were a noble family. Rukia said that they were basically a higher tier, very influential family, 1 rung or 1 tier below noble status. So they were not quite there yet, but they were very rich and they were very powerful and they did have a lot of sway in the Soul Society, but not quite noble yet. The same thing with the Kanongi family, where Shu was part of, that was going to marry Rurecchio, I think her name was. I can't remember anime shit sometimes. But yeah, they were not noble status. So getting non-canon stuff out of the way, I'm sure a lot of people are also going to comment below on maybe, oh, Shunsui's family might be noble, or Uketake's, they're really important, right? Well, you see, Kubo has actually elaborated a lot on a lot of the families in the Gotei 13 and what their social status is. Apparently, a lot of people didn't read the supplemental material. Bleach data book masks, pick it up now. But anyway, yeah, Shunsui's family, the Kyoraku family, as well as Uketake's family are referred to be as aristocratic, and they might have, I think Shunsui's is a little bit more higher rung than Uketake's, but they are not noble status. Neither is Omaida's family, also very rich, very powerful, but not noble. They are very rich, but they are not noble. It's not the same thing. They are very rich, but being rich and being noble are not necessarily always the same thing. A lot of the other clans we don't really know much about yet, other than, you know, clans such as Sajin's, but we don't. Obviously, Sajin's clan is not one of the 4 clans. His clan was, like, sentenced to banishment in this other realm, or essentially. Honestly, I don't think Kubo's gonna bring up the other noble clans, you know, to be integral in the series, and even if he does, it's not gonna be the clans that we already know so far. I don't think he's gonna come out and, by the way, the Hisagi family was noble all along. Like, I don't think that's gonna be the way it's gonna go down. Maybe I'm overlooking something, but all I have to ask you is in the comments below, before you comment about every single captain's, you know, maybe the Hitsugaya family is noble, maybe the Ichimaru family is noble. Just, I would ask that you look into the past of these characters first, you know, the way that Toshiro grew up, the way that Gin grew up, and really think to yourselves for a second, do you think they could be noble? Before you comment about every single family, because I honestly think that the noble families that we haven't seen yet, we literally have not seen yet, as in we haven't heard from them, we don't know any of the members of their family. I could be wrong, of course, but that's just my theory. Thank you guys for watching my video. Please comment below on what you think about this whole thing. Who's a member of the noble clans? You know, is Kubo going to bring them up again? Are the Shihouin families, you know, are the godly gears going to play an important role in the series? What are the role of the Kuchiki family that has not really been given a proper canon reason yet? What are your thoughts on the Shiba clan and why they fell from grace? Stuff like that. Thank you for watching, guys. This will be Lord Tekkington signing out. You may take your leave.